Okay, everybody, good evening. Great to be with you on tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you. Michael Blake, I have the honor of being one of the senior advisors for National Democratic Training Committee. What up to the NDTC family? We are so excited that you are with us on tonight as we're building Black political power. There's some serious alliteration going on right there. I got to say that slowly, so make sure we get that right there in that manner. But we are excited that you are with us on tonight, and especially honored and excited that Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester is with us. Always good to see you, my sister, to you and your family. My love all day, every day. And what we're going to do tonight is we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk through a few different questions. Congresswoman, of course, there's just a few things happening in DC and the world right now. So she'll be with us for a few moments at the top, and then we'll jump into our second segment from there accordingly, just so everybody on the same page. Tolulope Kevin, great to see you, a good brother from Collective. Give my love, of course, to the entire family out there as well, to Stephanie and to everybody out there as well. Make sure Quentin knows that I said hello and I asked for him too in that manner. And of course, Rhoda, thank you for our NDTC team. We're going to be engaging in the chat. We're going to see a lot of different activities that are happening there. So be on the lookout for that. So just so we're on the same page of the purpose of today, shout out to our leadership, to Kelly, our CEO, to Anthony Robinson, our political director, to Laura and everybody. Thank you. We're focusing on the underrepresentation of Black political leaders, especially in this moment that we're in right now, whether it's elected officials, campaign staffer, community advocates, holding our democracy together and making sure we're standing up in that way, building back political power. That is the theme for tonight. That's what we want you to be focused on, building Black political power. How do we require the collaborative shift to engage in our ecosystem, and in the ongoing commitment to recruit, train, and support? It has to be those three different things simultaneously, everybody. Recruit, train, and support these leaders. This panel is going to dig into the key factors necessary to build that pipeline of Black leadership and providing actionable advice and insight to those that are ready to step up and to lead in this moment. I come to you in this ready, and we're ready to rock from there. So in this moment, what we're doing here, allow us to jump right in to our Congresswoman, who have had the opportunity to do several events with her over the years. Lisa Blunt Rochester is just a titan in so many different ways. First and foremost, before we get going, just how are you doing? I think it's always important just to give the space and the grace for our leaders before we just put pressure on the different questions. How are you doing, Congresswoman?
Thank you. First of all, Michael, thank you for having me. My family sends greetings, especially my sister Marla, who is currently teaching at Rutgers University right now. She's teaching a course in organizing, so she said to say hello to you. I am doing well. I'm so glad you asked that question, and I hope everybody, first of all, thank you for showing all the love in the chat. I'm like watching the chat, and I love love. So anybody who knows me knows Lisa loves love. And so thank you for showing me the love in the chat. And I think I just want to also encourage everybody in these times to make sure you're showing love to yourself. This is a heavy time on so many different levels. And to me, taking care of your spiritual, physical, mental, all of that is so key right now. And especially because the folks that are on this line are people who are engaged, who are doing the work, and sometimes the work can consume you. So be conscious, but not consumed.
Okay, preacher. I like that right there. Be conscious but not consumed. We like that right there. I got that
from a retreat. I got that from a women's retreat like 30 years ago. And I love it because it really fits into what we're talking about here today in terms of building that power that, a lot of times you could get so consumed by racism, sexism, like every ism out there. And when you get consumed by it, you can't do the work. You can't move, you can't flow. So be conscious, but not consumed. Be able to get that work done. So that's why I want you to take care of yourself as well. So thanks for that question, Michael.
Absolutely. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna use that in my next sermon. I'll quote you first when I use it, but then afterwards, we'll rock and modify from there. A few quick questions because we know that you have to jump. So I honor and respect your time in that manner. If you could. Just for the magnitude of the moment, give us 30 seconds as we're watching in real time obviously the news that's been happening externally for what you are able to share. But I don't think if everyone's appreciating the magnitude of Russia, Ukraine, and the dynamic. But we talk about, Black power. We have a member of Congress here. If you can just give us a 30 seconds of what you're able to share about the magnitude of the moment, we would welcome that.
I mean, I think most of us are watching the news and watching what's happening. Even the administration, the president today said that Russia has invaded Ukraine. And that has ripple implications for Europe, but also us as a world. And you have a President Putin who wants to go back to, the Cold War and, back to World War II. And that is just not a place where we can be. And so I am hopeful that members of Congress working with the administration are looking at sanctions and are looking at ways that, we've tried diplomacy and we will continue to try diplomacy. But we also have to make sure that along with our allies, we stay strong and keep that region of the world as democratic as possible. So it's a very difficult and challenging time right now. And we haven't yet been briefed on the current situation with the sanctions yet, but it's a very daunting time right now in our history.
Well, we definitely stand with you and applaud and honor your leadership in these moments and everything you're doing in DC and in Delaware and across our nation and world. Give some context, if you can, of what do you see as the two main reasons why we're not seeing enough of our Black leaders deciding to run for office and get involved, and how to overcome those particular challenges?
Well, first of all, I want to, again, highlight and thank NDTC. You mentioned the Collective PAC. You mentioned there are other groups that have been very helpful, at least for me to even get to this position. But I would say the two big issues, one is sort of like lack of information and knowledge, everything from the process to the rules and that lack of information and knowledge sometimes leads to a lack of confidence and self-confidence that you could even do it. The second thing, I remember when I ran the first time, I run representing a whole state. And so I had folks that would say to me, you need to beat the streets, you need to knock every door, this is a grassroots movement. And then I had other people yelling at me, no, you need to be on that phone, raising money, you got a campaign that is statewide. And you could feel this tension and this pressure. And I ended up realizing that both of them were wrong. I had to do both. I literally had to find a way to both do grassroots and make sure that I had the resources in the Philadelphia media market, as well as a downstate Maryland media market, because we're two different media markets in my state, to be able to still get the word out about the work that I've been doing. And so, and one of the hardest things for me was asking for money for myself. So even on this call, it's sort of like, who have you supported? What candidates, what organizations like the Collective PAC, like Higher Heights, like these organizations that help us help ourselves. I think that's also really, really important. But those were two of the biggest things. And I'll say back to the information, a lot of times we have all that we need. It's like the Wizard of Oz or the Wiz, you got everything you need. But it's the courage and the confidence and that. And I had somebody say to me about debates, because I had never been in a debate when I ran. I ran for Congress. I never ran for anything in my life. That's another thing. People might say start at a certain level. You need to know yourself and what skills you bring to the table and where you fit in and what your why is. And somebody said to me, you need confidence and competence. You're already competent. You were Secretary of Labor. You were Deputy Secretary of Health and Social Services, CEO of the Urban League. You have competence, but you need confidence. And sometimes we have that imposter syndrome thing going on. No, you have what you need to do what you need to do, whether it's run a campaign, whether it's run for office, whether it's support somebody. My best friend didn't have money. All she could do, she said to me, Lisa, I will make you spaghetti and stew and whatever it takes so that you can win. Just do your part. That's what we need. We need people to know themselves, believe in themselves, and then do your part.
I'm just saying, if you want to send that spaghetti and stew up to the Bronx, we welcome that. We won't fight that at all. Totally dig that. And it's important because, I was saying to a few folks even a few days ago, I was vice chair, I was in the assembly, and a big piece of that is just the process and how the process can be overwhelming to all of us. But when you just take the time to pause for a second, you can overcome those moments.
Yeah, I'm looking in the chat too, and I see a lot of people saying money. Some people are asking about, campaign finance. And I think that's the other thing too, sometimes it really is important to also have good people around you, people that you trust and who know you and who got your back, and also can find out the rules to make sure that you're following all the rules. That's really important too. One of the things I also noticed too is the reason why that's important is because people also will change the rules up on you. And so you really need to make sure, and that's what we're fighting for right now in this moment, even across the country with voting rights. People changing the rules because our vote is that important.
I mean, people would never change the rules on Black folk. Black folk running for, no, that would never happen. Never happen.
I'm telling you though, this thing in here about money, because a couple of people keep talking about money is their specific issue. You could do a whole thing, and you maybe already have, on money and fundraising and some of the challenges. I mean, I remember that how for my colleagues, they would ask the same people for money. And I could see their reports. I could see that they got the money from them. But then I would call and it's like, oh, well, it took me, it took a while for me to feel comfortable in myself and realizing that I'm not asking for this for me. This is so I can fight for criminal justice reform. This is so I can fight for clean drinking water in my state. This ain't about me. This is about us. And when I started getting my mind right, it was a different Lisa asking for support, Oh yeah, and if anybody got $5, $10, please don't hesitate to go back up in the chat and, help me out. You realize if we're gonna be able to be successful, part of it is moving past that and finding those ways. And that's why building that bench is so important. The work that you're doing to build a bench and bringing other people with us. The goal is representation at the table, but also normalization. It shouldn't be Lisa's the first woman from Delaware or the first person of color in Congress. It should be like Ava DuVernay said, it should be normal. It should just be normal.
That's right. And simultaneous to that point, what we saw happen on January 6th was not normal, right? And we should make sure we're recognizing the insurrection that's happening there. The energy is incredible in the chat. I think y'all have us all.
I want to say to Crystal, you're right. Money is not everything. It shouldn't be as important as it is. What's most important is that you have, like I said, your why, that you already bring your skills and your resources. The money is just the thing to amplify. The money is just the thing to get you an organization, a machine, so that you can get out your vote. That's what that's for. But the first thing is to know your why, to know your purpose on this planet, to make sure that you're surrounded with the right people. Again, you got to have your mind right. And you're right. That's just a part of it, but it's a reality too.
And to what was just mentioned in the chat, you make the ask and then be silent.
Yes,
right?
Yes, I learned that. That was a hard one for me to learn too. I started talking people out of giving me money. I would say, could you give me $100? And they were quiet. So I said, okay, 50. I should have been quiet. I mean, those are the kind of things that you start to learn. That's why I said you could do a whole session on that. But I do believe, again, like I said, back to what Crystal said, what is your purpose on this planet? And Michael knows, and I know I got to run, but I got into this after the unexpected death of my husband. Incredible man, smart, brilliant, funny, sexy engineer, Omega Psi Phi Q. This brother was chocolatey beautiful. Charles went on a business trip, ruptured his Achilles tendon, and in a couple of weeks died from blood clots. And for a whole year, I was depressed. I was mad, I was sad, and I'm a person of faith. I was afraid I would lose my faith. But when I saw a dad and 3 kids in front of me in the supermarket putting back a bunch of grapes because they were $9, I was like, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. But a lot of other people aren't. And it propelled me to run. So when you know your why, it's okay that you want people to contribute to the why. That's what it's about. We are here for a moment. And in that moment, it's all about love. You do the work because you love. You love this planet. You love each other. Try to love yourself. And if you believe in God, love God. That's all it's about. That's it. That's it.
Well, first, you already know how much we love you and rock with your family for years. And that's the kind of intensity that we need and appreciation that we need and that grace. I know you have to run. I'm just gonna ask for 30 seconds on this because we've been asked this directly. And the point of defining your why and talking a little bit about January 6th and in this moment, what is keeping you going after something like that happens, right? Like when that kind of attack of democracy happens, what are you saying to Black folk that either want to run for office, they want to volunteer, they want to mobilize? What is your parting shot to say, this is why you got to keep going? Okay, so here's the thing. So Michael knows I was one of the people trapped up in the gallery during the insurrection. I prayed because that's what my ancestors did. That's what my grandparents did. And I know that it was nothing but the grace of God that got us out of there that day. And in that prayer, the first line I said was a scripture that all things work together for the good. All things, even the bad things. The bad things that have happened here have shown us things that we've hidden or weren't aware of. COVID showed us health disparities like no other time in our history. George Floyd's murder opened people's eyes who were home because of COVID. That insurrection makes people have to answer, choose, what do we want to be? Do we believe in democracy? Do we believe in these things we say we do? Well, then we got to stand up for it. And for me, it is God's grace, my family, my faith, the fun that I have is Beyonce. It's all of that keeps me going. I mean, literally that keeps me going. And even opportunities like this, just to say, hey, the torch is passed to you. You got this. We got this. That's it. Faith. That's it. Between faith and Beyonce, we all got this right there. So
get information. That's all. Get
information.
Just saying, both information and information. But yes.
Okay. So
I see Solange in there too. Okay.
Yes, we got love for Solange. Don't worry.
Yes. Well, I'm late for my next thing.
But please, we appreciate you. Go ahead.
And if you need me, like Diana Ross said, call me. I'll be right there. So thank you guys so much. Thanks for the work. And you got this. We got this. Don't give up. Don't give up. See ya.
God bless you. Thank you, my sister.
Bless you too.
Let's keep this energy going. Let's keep this going. We're not done yet, y'all. We're not done yet. We got more to do. Tolulope, no pressure. No pressure. Now you got to come in strong right here.
She's a tough act to follow, isn't she?
I'm just saying, I mean, now you got to bring the energy, I mean, you got to break out of your shy shell just a little bit, introduce yourself, talk to the people, let's set the tones, and then let's keep it rocking. And yeah, I'm giving you that P. Diddy energy. You already know what time it is, in the chat. Introduce yourself.
Take that. So my name is Tolulope Kevin Olasanoye. I am the National Political and Organizing Director for an organization called the Collective. The Collective was started in 2016 by our president and co-founder and senior advisors, Quentin and Stephanie James. And their belief was at the time that in order to change laws, you need to change lawmakers. And specifically, they were, built an organization that now has grown to support and help elect 300 Black candidates across the country to build Black political power. We're one of the few organizations across the country that support Black candidates running for office, whether they're at the top of the ballot, running for Senate or president, or whether they're down at the bottom of the ballot running for school board or council or a local race and everything in between. This year we'll endorse 250 candidates across the country. We've already started. We're on track to get to 65, I think, before the end of the month. And so that's what we're doing. Every day we're working to help to build Black political power by supporting Black candidates that are running for office, but also making sure that Black folks are empowered to cast their vote, as you were talking about, Mike, because there's no doubt if Putin wants a return to the Cold War, the Republicans want to return to Cold War era style tactics when it comes to Black folks being able to cast their ballots, right? And so, some of the work that we're doing on the education side to make sure that voters understand what their rights and responsibilities are as it relates to the power of the franchise, and then giving them the tools to be able to make sure that they cast those votes on election day.
Let's stay there, and you already know how much love I got for the collective all day, every day. Give people on the line, as we're building power and framing the space of, regardless of if you're running for office, a staff or a volunteer, or you're just a Democrat who wants to be in the trenches, but I want to keep doing my work, 2 to 3 specific tools that people need to have to be successful as they're building their power.
Yeah, so I want to double down on what the Congresswoman said. I think it all starts with, why are you doing this in the first place? You have got to be in this for the right reasons, whether you're a candidate, whether you're an organizer knocking on doors, whether you're a volunteer for a phone bank making phone calls across the country for a candidate you've never met to a person you've never talked to. If you're not doing it, if you're not motivated ultimately by your why, then to me, put it down, walk away, go try something else. Mike, you know this because you've been a candidate before. There's nothing fun about call time, right? Like, there's nothing fun about some of the things that happen, the sacrifices that, people who want to be elected officials have to give up, the things they have to give up to be able to do that, to have the honor of representing their constituents. And so I think the first thing you got to do is you 100% need to have the right why. The second thing I'll reiterate, you got to have a good team around you. It is so critically important, I think, for any candidate at any level, any person at any level, to make sure that they have the right support system and not yes people. Too often I see candidates who are looking for people to reinforce positives or things that they know already about themselves, and not challenge them to dig deeper and to look for different ways to try to accomplish the same goal. I think it's more important to have people who are willing to tell you no and challenge your conventional thinking than it is for somebody who's going to be supportive of you, although supporters are super important. I think the last thing that you gotta have in this space as a candidate is a willingness to be able to learn. As you sort of talked about this a little bit on the front end, but I think, no person understands completely every little nook and cranny that a campaign, an election cycle can throw at you. On a daily basis, things change. The news cycle changes. Your opponent says something, a donor says something to you, and you've got to read and react. And so being able to be a sponge and really just kind of take in the moment and learn from what is happening to you and around you is a super, super important skill. I think that serves most of the candidates that we work with very, very well.
And in that moment of being that sponge and accepting the information and understanding that flow itself, tying that to the next piece of then, what have you found to be the most effective ways to recruit people to run? So because we've talked about some of the fears, and we've said, okay, well, this is what you have to do. You have to have the, find your why and understanding. But what has been that piece that has gotten someone over the hump? And I'm going to modify it, not just to run, but also to want to serve, because there's a lot of ways you can serve without running for office.
Yeah, so I think that the number one most important recruitment tool over the last 5 years has been sort of seeing how Republicans have reacted in the Trump era to people, ordinary people wanting to just be involved in the process, right? We saw this explosion of Black candidates who wanted to run for office after Senator Warnock won his reelection or his election in January of 2021. And I would say more and more and more, what I'm finding is that people are willing to do it at the local level, frankly, and not at the national level. Not everybody is going to be a Lisa Blunt Rochester, who is a complete rock star, won her first race for Congress, and is likely going to serve there for as long as she wants to. Most people have to work their way up the ladder, right? You start as a city council person, you start on the school board, and maybe you run citywide, maybe you run for the state legislature, or you run countywide before you start looking at running for Congress. So I think the need for, and by the way, there is a need for Black voices at those tables as much as there is a need for Black voices at congressional and statewide tables in the US Senate, right? Like I tell folks all the time, I may never meet the president of the United States, but the guy who makes sure that my streets are clean, that makes sure that my kids are getting the right kind of education, that makes sure that the trash get picked up in my neighborhood, that person has just as much an influence and impact on my life as everybody else does. And so I think sort of thinking about what can I do in my sphere of influence? What can I do in my local neighborhood to be able to have an impact is something I think that folks have got to kind of consider when they're thinking about running for office.
There's a lot of things happening in the chat. For those just joining us, Michael Blake, Senior Advisor, National Democratic Training Committee, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Building Black political power. Building Black political power. We want you to show love in social media so we can amplify that. And for the things that are happening in the chat all over the country, you got a lot of candidates. You got a lot of people that want to mobilize. You got a few folks who have actually said they're rocking and following you now on LinkedIn. So they sent you a request on how to get criteria for consideration of endorsement. So that's spectacular to see. Also see in the chat, shout out to Monty, our entire team. There's ways for you to sign up for our online academies, everybody, because this is not just about a one-time session. This is about how do we make sure you stay engaged to get mobilized, to focus from there. The Collective is the name of the organization, and you should feel free to put that in the chat for that reference point. See, we appreciate that there. Thinking about this, when we think through some of the specifics, we've talked through the obstacles, we've talked through the concerns that have stopped people from running from different areas. We've talked through some of the challenges there. Give us a sense of how to use the stories, in particular story itself, right, and influence, and not just in urban areas, suburban areas and rural, right? So how do we use these stories to connect to voters and build bridges? Because I think we can all agree, a lot of times people think we're talking about Black folks, that we're only talking about what's happening in particular communities, but however, it's for everybody, and to mobilize from there. So we'll welcome your advice on how to use story and story of self to connect urban, rural, suburban, all of the different communities collectively.
Yeah, Mike, I think one of the things that you learn as you do this for as long as you and I have been doing this is that authenticity matters, right? Like at the end of the day, the person that you're asking to cast a vote for you, the best way to be able to convince somebody that you're the right person is to be a mirror. I once was told by a longtime political consultant that the best public servants are mirrors. They reflect back to the constituency that they serve the constituency. So it's never about them. It's always about the people that they're trying to serve. And I think that applies whether you're in an urban environment or you're in a suburban environment or you're in a rural environment, right? Trying to find ways to humanize yourself that make you relatable and make people want to sort of understand why they should cast their vote, cast their support for you is not an easy thing to do. But it goes back to at a fundamentally human level, what are the things that are a part of my story that everybody can identify with? So I'll just use my personal story as an example. I'm the oldest of 4 brothers. My parents were immigrants from Nigeria. They both got here in the late 1970s, early 80s. And all they cared about was making sure that their kids had a first-class education. They put us in the best public schools, and at times they considered putting us in private school, because what they cared about most was being able to give us that foundation of skills so that we could go on to do whatever it was that we wanted to be able to do. I think as it relates to education, doesn't matter whether you're in an urban environment or a suburban environment or a rural environment, everybody wants their kids to have the best first class, world class education. Everybody wants their teachers to be the best trained. They want to make sure that their teachers are delivering the best quality education. As I sort of, after I graduated from law school, one of the things you and I, Mike, have in common is I spent a lot of time working on behalf of minority and women-owned businesses and trying to make sure that they had access to capital, right? And it doesn't matter whether you're an urban business or whether you're a suburban district or exurban district. It doesn't matter whether you're a majority or a minority person. If you're in business, you want to make sure that you have every opportunity to succeed, and that if there are ways that government can help you, right, that you have access to those opportunities. And so I think at a fundamental level, what this boils down to is not just being able to talk your story at people, right, but being able to take pieces of your narrative and relate it back to things that they care about, because ultimately it's those commonalities that are going to get people excited about your candidacy and want to knock on your doors and want to make the donations to your campaign.
Absolutely. And in that same vein, finding why I saw someone earlier talked about running for office in Michigan. I ran 3 state house races in Michigan, so I know that journey. I see some piece about Raleigh, North Carolina. Nope, it's never too late. You want to just figure out the petitioning process and the candidate filing process. For those that are thinking about it, it varies in many areas. Here in New York, for example, petitioning begins March 1st. But then you have about 5 weeks before that process continues. So find out the process on how you're able to run accordingly. You heard that mentioned by Congresswoman LBR earlier, making sure you have that down and having the right team around you, everybody. It's not just about fundraising. Fundraising allows you to get your name out there, but an election attorney, having the right election attorney, having a great field director who understands the numbers and how to mobilize is also critically important. I always say this as you're thinking about it, determine your end goals and objectives and then work backwards, but understand the numbers, because an election is really about the numbers. Do I have the path to win this thing? All right, let's go to the chat real quick. We can do about 2 questions here. And I'm seeing some great follow-up that's happening in real time. That is always the best. And I gave you my information. People are asking how to stay connected to us.
While you're doing that, Mike, let me plug the Collective PAC if I can. If you're looking for us, it's www.collectivepac.org. You can find all the information about our organization. And if you're looking to get endorsed as a candidate, if you're thinking about running for office, you can find a copy of our endorsement questionnaire right on the website. You can click right on the website, fill it out right there, and our political team will get in touch with you. So check us out, collectivepac.org.
That's that perfect 30-second commercial. I like what time it is right there. I see here a lot of things in the chat so far we've actually been able to address. One thing that was mentioned that I think is perfect to address here, Dietrich Duncan, I see your questions. I'm gonna tie this up to this point. Black folk organizing in Republican communities, right?
Yeah.
Which is very timely in this moment, right? Because we're gonna hear a lot about national security. We're gonna hear a lot about faith. We're gonna hear a lot about small business and jobs. How is the Collective PAC helping people to better organize in Republican strongholds, where we realize you're not going to necessarily win overwhelmingly, but you need to be more competitive?
Yeah, so a couple of things I think here that are important. The first is like, Democrats can win everywhere if we compete everywhere and if we do the work. I'm reminded of in the 2018 cycle, there was a gentleman who ran for mayor in a small town in Montana, a Liberian immigrant whose name escapes me at the minute, but he won. This is a Republican district. It is the reddest of the red, and he was able to be successful. Why? Because he did the work. He went out, he organized, he understood his win number, but he also, I think, did the most critical thing, which is figure out how you are messaging. And that's, I think, a place where the Collective PAC can be the most helpful, right? So because we are working with candidates that are running races all over the country and all different types of races, we are also learning a lot about what works in terms of messaging. So we don't do polling. We'd like to do more polling than we would like than we are currently doing. But we also have this sort of learned experience from the candidates that we're working with. So if you're running for school board and you're trying to understand, how do I address the topic of CRT, right? How am I figuring out a way to make sure that I'm still talking to people without alienating them? We can be helpful there, right? On the issue of public safety, 2 years ago, while the entire country was having a national conversation around criminal justice reform that devolved into, are you a defunder or are you not a defunder? We were trying to figure out, how do we talk about public safety? How do we talk about criminal justice reform in a way that makes sure that people understand what those fundamental values are that we're talking about are really, frankly, not Republican or Democrat, right? It's about trying to make sure that there's fairness and equity in our outcomes, right? So that if my kid is driving down the street and your kid is driving down the street and they do the same thing, that the outcome is the same from the beginning of the police interaction all the way to the end.
That's right.
Those are the types of things I think that the Collective PAC and organizations like ours can be doing. But frankly, those are all things that are driven by the values that you have as a candidate, right? So one of the questions I think you have to ask yourself is like, what do I care? How do I feel about this issue? What does this issue mean to me? And how can I authentically communicate that to folks who are looking for my vote?
And we're hearing that positive energy happen in your crib right now. That's a blessing. I think all day, every day, that joy right there.
That's right. Yeah. Sorry, my 18-month-old chief of staff may make an appearance here very shortly.
It's all about the next generation. I told the team, today's my goddaughter's 14th birthday, and she is expecting me for dinner tonight. So it's all about that next generation. But a question about how to save the chat, you can just copy and paste, do a select all, you can save the chat from there in that own right, if you're able to capture it there, and actually feel free to take some screenshots as well. For the Q&A that's here, we discussed what's going on in Ukraine. We talked about some of those pieces there. We talked about rural. We talked about the Collective PAC endorsing other Dems. So we've answered several of those questions here. Two pieces that have been asked to you that I think are relevant. All these questions are relevant. One, your advice on how do we motivate Gen Z and millennials to get involved in party politics. Party politics. And equally, completely separate, your advice on what can our white allies do to help, given the challenges of racism that are happening in our country right now.
So I'll take the first question first. I'm a state party guy, as you know, Mike. I was the first Black executive director in the state that I grew up in. And then I went and ran another state party. I believe in the party because I believe in the values that the party stands for. I think a lot of young folks believe in the party and believe in the values that the party stands for. The problem is access points, trying to figure out how do I actually get a chance to be able to be involved and to make an impact. What I tell a lot of younger folks, whether they're high school students or college students, is your local Democratic club on campus is a great way to get plugged in. I did internships during my time in undergrad in campaigns. That's another great way to get involved in campaign life, and specifically in the party. But here's the other thing, Mike. I think you gotta have the party address the issues that young people care about. And so we heard from students all over the country last year and 2 years ago that addressing the crisis that is the mounting amount of debt that kids have to take on to get higher education is a significant priority. Because we don't have Republicans that are willing to address this issue, it has become, it's gotten stalled in Congress, right? But we need action on student loan debt. It has to be a priority. If you want to engage and give, every voter at the end of the day, they trade their vote for a basket of goodies, right? They're being told that they're going to get something for their vote. And what we've got to do as a party is make sure that for every person that invests in the Democratic Party, that they get back that basket of goodies that we promised them that they were going to get for their vote. Can you remind me what the second question was, Mike?
It was on our advice to our white allies and how they can be supportive to our Black political operatives and candidates, especially given the environment that we're in right now.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that allies can do to be helpful to Black candidates is to be willing to be front-facing with their support. Be willing to, stand with Black candidates in spaces where they don't traditionally see Black candidates. I have sat in on call time with congressional candidates around the country where white allies have sat with their Black candidates that they're supporting during their call time to do the Rolodexing, to say, here's a person that I know would be supportive of you. Can you pick up the phone and call? And sat in the room when the conversation happened, made the introduction. I think, it was cool last year when everybody or 2 years ago when in the summer after George Floyd's death, Republicans got religion and they made Juneteenth a national holiday. But what are the goods besides that, right? We've got a few more days to Black History Month. Cool if you're being supportive of Black candidates in private spaces, but I think it's super important to be as public facing and as front facing on that stuff as you possibly can. If you're a white ally and you've got a Black candidate that you're supporting, host a meet and greet for them, host a fundraiser for them, host a phone bank for them. Do the small things. It's small acts of kindness, small acts of reaching out are just as important, in my opinion, as the big stuff.
That's right. I'm gonna wrap us up in a few moments here to give a final closing word in your final 60 seconds of specifically how can the collective be helpful and why do we need Black and brown allies to get in the game right now?
Yeah. I can tell you that I am so incredibly excited about this election cycle. I think that you are going to see the most talented, diverse, and dynamic group of Black candidates that are running across the country, everywhere, up and down the ballot. And what's important and what's useful about that is that my son, who's 18 months, gets the opportunity to see what it looks like when somebody that looks like him represents him. And I think that the importance of that cannot be said in words, frankly. In terms of what the collective is going to be doing to supporting them, we'll be making financial contributions. We'll be talking about your candidacy on social media. We'll be lifting up your voices. Our team is going to be trying to help to do as much as we can to make sure that your infrastructure is built out. The Congresswoman was talking about making sure you have that right machine We do a lot of hands-on work to make sure that we can help you build that, tailored to whatever you're doing and tailored to your district and your race. And yeah, man, I think, the future is bright. We got to get the next Black woman elected to the U.S. Senate. We got to get a Black woman elected as governor across the country. We've never done that in our country's history. This is the year to do it. Got to protect these majorities in the Senate and in the House. And it's going to be Black candidates that are going to make the difference. As you look at the map, as you look at the places that matter across the country, it's Black candidates that are going to lead the way, from Mandela Barnes and Sherry Beasley and Val Demings on the Senate side, to folks like Quay Corte and Kermit Jones and Jevin Hodge and Jackie Gordon and others. If you want to understand how to make sure that we continue to be able to uphold the values that we care about and to get things done, bet on Black. That's what I think you got to do in 2022 to be successful. And that's what we're doing at the Collective PAC.
I mean, I just think that on 2/2/22, you should bet on Black. I mean, that seems like the perfect way to mobilize in that manner. We're incredibly grateful for everything the Collective does. Follow what's happening with the Collective. You see the information in the chat. You see the links in the chat as well, everybody. And to stay engaged and in those manners, try to bet on Black. You got a lot of Black folk that are running, and it's important for us to recognize, we all have different dimensions of how we're defining that. But I'm saying, when I'm saying African American, when I'm saying Black Latino, I'm saying Black Indigenous, you define yourself as Black, I want you to win, right? And we want to be mobilized in that way. And that goes from the candidates to the staff on down. And here we go. Final 60 seconds. A lot of references in the chat, everybody. Please find them. Please find them. Please find them. Stay engaged with what's going on at NDTC. We need you to be rocking with us, everybody, all day, every day. There's so much to be done, and we cannot sit on the sidelines. So we need you. We need you. We need you. Train Dems is the Twitter handle. Make sure to follow us. Train Dems. That's National Democratic Training Committee, especially given what's going on in the country now and forevermore, especially as we think about what's going on, the importance as it relates to Black women for the Supreme Court. We're looking forward to that. We're excited about that. When we think about the candidates, we think about the staff. We are all in this together in this moment, and what we have to do for our people regularly, all day, every day. I say this often. Dr. King made it very plain. In the end, we remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. So do not be silent when they go after the Jewish community with anti-Semitic rhetoric. Don't be silent when they go after our women with sexist rhetoric. Don't be silent against our Asian community when they talk about what's happening with Asian hate. Don't be silent when they talk about discriminatory language and trying to build walls for our Latino community. Don't be silent when you hear Islamophobic behavior. Don't be silent when attacking the LGBTQIA community. Do not be silent when people with disability are being ignored and disrespected. Do not be silent among all of our people, rural, suburban, and urban. Don't be silent, but do not be silent. We see what's going on in our Black communities, what's happening in our communities right now. This is about building Black political power. This is about how we stand up for our people and mobilize in so many different ways. You have the chat information there. Make sure to follow us, stay engaged, stay plugged in, and make sure that we have to be engaged in a very serious and powerful way. This is our time. This is our moment. And if we think about 2/2/22, I remind people the Greeks had two definitions of time. There was chronos, which was chronological order, and then there's kairos, which is the moment. This is the moment to build Black political power. My name is Michael Blake. I'm honored for the opportunity, what we've done with you tonight. Let's continue to do even more NDTC for 2022 and beyond. Much love, everybody. Have a great night.
Bless y'all. Take care.
Hi, I'm Lacey Connolly, one of NDTC's trainers. For more political trainings like this, check out traindemocrats.org. Thanks so much for watching.